Hey, people of faith, Pastor Daniel here on Monday, October the 2nd. We are in our month of our sermon series, which is called Our Vows, and we're doing our vows on our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. October, in a lot of churches, they do October as Stewardship Month, and that kind of makes sense. It's kind of what we're doing. How are we being good stewards of the gifts that God has given to us? And we are talking this month in our sermons about how we commit to support the church by those 5 things. Again, prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. So how are we using those to benefit God's kingdom, to benefit Jesus and all that he's given us, so that he can fully bring his kingdom here on earth, just as it is in heaven? Well, I come to you this morning to give you a little bit of a word of encouragement for today. Last night, we were doing our devotions with the girls before we put them to bed, and we've been doing this Action Bible. It's called the Action Bible. It's kind of like the Bible in comic books. And last night's, you can't make this stuff up. If you've been watching the NFL this year, you've heard the NFL do commercials about, like, they're doing skits, and they're saying, you can't make this stuff up. Well, you really can't make this one up. If you were in church yesterday, or maybe you're watching this video and you notice, I got a bad haircut. I went to the barber and I said, I want 2 inches on top, and he took 2 inches off the top, cut it way shorter than I wanted it to be. That happens to the best of us. Well, sure enough, last night's devotion for Arabella, as we're reading through this, is a bad haircut, and it's about Samson. If you do not know the story of Samson, Samson was a judge in Israel. This is found in Judges chapter 16. Samson was a judge in Israel, and he had long, beautiful hair, and because of his long hair, he was strong, and he was able to fight against God's enemies, the Philistines, the enemies of the Israelites, who were God's people. And so he was able to destroy all these Philistines, and he even fought off a lion, which was really cool. But he fell in love with a Philistine woman, and he told her the secret to his strength. So, sure enough, she cut his hair off. So he was not really a good steward of what he knew God had gifted him with. So think about what God has gifted you with. Are we being good stewards with that? Or are we just not being good stewards of that? Not being intentional and la-di-dying, not giving what God has given to us back to him. We're not using it for God's benefits, for God's church, for the kingdom of Jesus on this earth, but we're just not even worried about it. Maybe we're using it for our own benefit. Or maybe we're using it for the benefit of somebody else. Samson lost his gift from God because he told Delilah about his secret. She cut his hair, and suddenly he wasn't strong anymore. This is what happened to him. And Judges chapter 16, I think it's verse 21, when she cut his hair, the Philistines seized him, and they gouged out his eyes, and they took him to Gaza, to where their kind of main camp was. And then later on, now Samson's hair began to grow back, and later on, the Philistines were going to make sacrifices to their own idol, to their own fake god. And when they did, they brought Samson in. Again, he's blind now. They gouged his eyes out, and they bring him in on chains in front of all these Philistines, 3,000 Philistines. And this is what Samson did. Remember, what's our first stewardship that we're talking about? Prayer. We make our vows to the church to support the church by our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. And Samson, now blind, here in the midst of 3,000 Philistines, the leaders of the Philistines, the greatest of all the Philistines, they're having this great feast. He prays to God, and this is what he says, verse 28, "Then Samson prayed to the Lord, 'Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes.'" And so they set Samson up between these 2 pillars, and Samson sets his arms on the 2 pillars, and he gets strengthened once more by the Lord, and he pushes against the pillars with all his might, and they all fall down. The entire place collapses, and Samson killed 3,000 Philistines that day. And so he killed more Philistines on the day that he died, with that last time in which he was humbled, and he prayed to God for help, and God strengthened him. what he did was mightier than and better than anything else he did all of his life combined. So it's never too late. If we mess up, if we say, I haven't been the best person in the world, I've been a Christian most of my life, and I haven't really been good at being a good steward of what God has given me, don't worry about it. It's not too late to change your ways and do something good for God's kingdom, to show Jesus's love and his affection here on earth, just as it is in heaven. Don't forget to pray for our enemies, and remember, it's never too late to turn and do what God has called us to do. Go out today, be a good steward of God's love and all that he has given to you, and let's continue to bring people to Jesus, making disciples of Jesus Christ who worship passionately, love extravagantly, and witness boldly.